Let's see how Yarn runs an application. Broadly, there are 5 steps involved in running a Yarn application. First, the client submits an application to the resource manager. Then, the resource manager allocates a container. The application master then contacts the related node manager. Then the node manager launches the container. And finally, the container executes the application master. We'll be looking at this in greater detail in the next few scribes. Step 1. Applications submitted to Resource Manager. Users submit applications to the Resource Manager by typing in the Hadoop jar command. The Resource Manager maintains the list of applications on the cluster and available resources on the node manager. The Resource Manager determines the next application that receives a portion of the cluster resource. The decision is subject to many constraints, such as queue capacity, access control lists, and fairness. In Step 2, we'll be allocating a container. When the Resource Manager accepts a new application submission, one of the first decisions the scheduler makes is selecting a container. Then the application master is started and is responsible for the entire lifecycle of that particular application. First, it sends resource requests to the Resource Manager to ask for containers to run the application's tasks. A resource request is a simple request for a number of containers that satisfy resource requirements such as the following: the amount of resources, expressed as megabytes of memory and CPU shares, the preferred location, specified by hostname or rack name, and priority within this application and not across multiple applications. The Resource Manager allocates a container by providing a container ID along with a hostname which satisfies the requirements of the application master. In Step 3, the application master will be contacting the node manager. So after a container is allocated, the application master asks the node manager managing the host on which the container was allocated to use these resources to launch an application-specific task. This task can be any process written in any framework, such as MapReduce or Spark. In Step 4, the Resource Manager will be launching a container. The node manager does not monitor tasks. It only monitors the resource usage in the container. For example, it kills a container if it consumes more memory than initially allocated. Throughout its life, the application master negotiates containers to launch all the tasks needed to complete its application. It also monitors the progress of an application and its tasks, restarts failed tasks in newly requested containers, and reports progress back to the client that submitted the application. In Step 5, the container executes the application master. After the application is complete, the application master shuts itself off and releases its own container. Though the resource manager does not monitor the tasks within an application, it does check the health of the application master. If the application master fails, it can be restarted by the resource manager in a new container. Thus, the resource manager looks after the application master, while the application master looks after the tasks. The application master is responsible for the execution of a single application. It asks the resource scheduler for containers and executes specific programs. The application master knows the application logic and is thus framework specific. The MapReduce framework provides its own implementation of an application master. The resource manager is a single point of failure in Yarn. Using application masters, Yarn spreads the metadata related to run applications over the cluster. This reduces the load of the resource manager